Just 3 minutes ago, Harry's explosive new book dropped like a nuclear device inside the monarchy. Pages laced with raw accusations, private betrayals, and secrets no royal was ever meant to read. Insiders say Anne slammed her copy shut in fury while Catherine read in stunned silence, tears streaming. What words on those pages were so devastating, they forced both women to make the same unthinkable decision. Palace sources now reveal the exact chapter that ended every phone call, every visit, every trace of contact forever. This isn't another memoir. This is the final fracture that severed Anne and Catherine from Harry for good. The clock is ticking, and the royal family may never recover. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. The book hit the internet at precisely 3:47 p.m. London time, and within 60 seconds a frantic aide was already sprinting down the corridor with a printed copy clutched in shaking hands. Anne received hers first. She stood alone in her private study at Gatcombe Park, the afternoon light slanting across the heavy oak desk. The moment her eyes scanned the opening lines of Chapter 7, her face hardened like stone. No gasp. No hesitation. She slammed the book shut with such force that the sound cracked through the room like a gunshot. Her hands trembled not from fear, but from a fury so deep it felt physical, as if the pages themselves had reached out and struck her. Those accusations cut straight to the bone, cold indifference, dismissive words in private meetings, a complicit silence that had left Harry isolated when he needed family most. Every sentence twisted years of her quiet support into something ugly and unrecognizable. Catherine's moment came minutes later in the stillness of Kensington Palace. She had asked to be left alone, curtains drawn, the book resting heavy on her lap. As she turned each page, her breathing grew shallower, until tears slipped silently down her cheeks. The words painted her as distant, unsupportive, even quietly jealous of the life Harry had chosen. Specific passages dragged up private moments she thought were buried forever, conversations where she had tried to offer guidance only to be cast as controlling, early struggles where her own pain had been reframed as indifference. She read the chapter twice, each word landing like a fresh wound, her hands clutching the edges until the paper creased. The woman who had mastered every public mask now sat broken in private, the weight of betrayal pressing down until she could barely breathe. Early warnings from Harry's team had flashed through palace channels for weeks, vague hints of sensitive content, coded messages urging senior royals to prepare. They were ignored, dismissed as bluster. No one believed he would go this far. Yet here it was, the simmering resentment that had built across oceans and years, finally erupting in black and white. Accusations aimed directly at Anne and Catherine, naming them both as part of the machine that had pushed him to the edge. The kind of raw, personal pain no royal protocol could contain. Anne stood at her window, staring out at the empty fields, already feeling the shift inside her. Catherine wiped her tears and set the book aside, her mind racing toward the same dark conclusion. The decision was forming in both of them at the exact same moment. Though they did not yet know it, two of the strongest women in the family, reaching the same devastating line. But no one expected the next chapter to hit even harder or force two of the strongest royals to draw the same devastating line. Anne had always been the unbreakable backbone of the family, yet one chapter in Harry's book reduced her to furious silence. Insiders describe her pacing her study at 2 a.m., rereading the same paragraphs that painted her as cold, dismissive, and complicit in his suffering. What exact words about her role in his struggles cut deepest? What private letter she once wrote him is now quoted back in print? Palace insiders are leaking the moment she picked up the phone and made the call that would change everything. No more contact, no more forgiveness. The princess who protected the crown for decades had finally reached her limit. The fury built slowly at first, a low simmer that Anne tried to smother beneath decades of practiced restraint. She had opened the book expecting discomfort, perhaps even pain, but not this surgical precision. paragraph after paragraph, dissected her every interaction with Harry, her clipped responses during his darkest months, her refusal to indulge what he called emotional indulgence, her steady insistence that duty must come before despair. Words she had spoken in private, meant to steady him, were now reframed as indifference, as proof she had never truly cared. Each line landed like a fresh betrayal, twisting the quiet support she had offered over years into something cruel and calculating. She paced faster, breath coming short, the room suddenly too small to contain the storm rising inside her. The deepest cut came from the letter. She remembered writing it years earlier, late at night after one of his crises, ink smudged from exhaustion. A single page of plain advice wrapped in affection: "You are stronger than you know. Lean on the family when you need to, but never let the pain define you." Simple words from an aunt who had watched him grow, who had quietly covered for him more times than anyone knew. Harry had quoted it verbatim, but stripped away the context, presented it as evidence of her emotional distance, as another brick in the wall that had pushed him away. The violation felt intimate, personal, almost obscene. Her own handwriting turned against her, her concern weaponized. She stopped pacing, stared at the open page, and felt something crack inside, trust, perhaps, or the last fragile thread of familial forgiveness. Duty had always been her anchor. She had swallowed every slight, every public slight, every private wound for the sake of the crown. Family came second, only because family was the crown. Yet now that loyalty demanded she absorb this public humiliation from her own nephew, and the scales tipped. Rage flooded in, hot and unrelenting, drowning the instinct to protect, to mediate, to forgive. She thought of the nights she had stayed awake worrying about him, the quiet interventions she had made without fanfare, the way she had defended him when others whispered he was lost. All of it reduced to accusation, all of it dismissed. The emotional toll hit like a physical blow, chest tight, throat burning, eyes stinging with tears she refused to let fall. Betrayal from a stranger she could endure. From blood it was unbearable. She crossed to the desk, picked up the phone with deliberate calm. Her voice, when she spoke, carried no tremor, only finality. The call lasted less than 2 minutes. No greetings, no explanations, just the line she had rehearsed in her mind while the fury burned. "After today, there will be no further contact between us." None. She hung up before any reply could reach her. The receiver clicked into place like a door ceiling shut forever. She stood motionless afterward, the silence louder than any argument, the weight of what she had done settling over her like ash. While Anne's fury burned behind closed doors, Catherine's pain was just beginning to surface in a way no one saw coming. Catherine sat alone in Kensington Palace, the book open on her lap, reading passages that stripped away years of trust. Harry's words painted her as distant, unsupportive, even jealous accusations that cut straight to the bone. What hidden struggles did he expose about her early years in the family? What private moment between her and Harry is now public ammunition? Insiders reveal the exact text she sent William afterward, and the tearful decision she made before dawn: all contact ends today. The woman trained to smile through anything had finally broken, and the ripple would reach Anne within hours. The room felt colder with every page she turned. Harry's voice on the paper was calm, measured, almost regretful, which made the betrayal sting sharper. He described her early days in the family with clinical detail, the hesitancy in her greetings, the way she pulled back when conversations turned personal. The polite distance that had once been self-preservation now recast as deliberate exclusion. He wrote of times she had offered advice only to have it ignored, then spun the silence that followed as proof she never truly welcomed him. Each sentence dragged long-buried insecurities into harsh daylight doubts she had fought to silence for years. Fears that she would never quite belong, that her every effort would be judged insufficient. The words landed like slow poison, spreading until her chest ached with the effort of breathing evenly. One passage struck deepest, a private moment from years earlier, a quiet conversation in the days after a particularly brutal headline storm. She had sat with Harry in a side room, trying to offer comfort, sharing a small piece of her own experience with scrutiny and isolation. She remembered the way he had listened, head bowed, the faint nod of understanding. Now those same words were quoted back, framed as her lecturing him from a position of privilege, as though her pain had been used to diminish his. The intimacy of that exchange, once a fragile bridge, now stood exposed and twisted into ammunition. Her hands shook so badly the pages rustled. Tears blurred the ink. She pressed her palm to her mouth to stifle the sound that tried to escape, but the sob broke through anyway, quiet, choked, the sound of something inside her finally giving way. Her body betrayed her in waves. First the tremor in her fingers, then the tightness in her throat, the hot flush rising to her face. She curled forward, elbows on knees, the book slipping to the floor with a soft thud that felt deafening in the silence. Minutes passed before she could move again. When she finally reached for her phone, the screen lit her tear-streaked face. The text to William was brief, raw, stripped of every royal filter. "I can't do this anymore. He took everything we tried to give and turned it against us. No more contact. I mean it." She sent it before doubt could stop her, then set the device aside and let the tears come freely. The woman who had learned to smile through grief, through illness, through relentless judgment, had reached the end of what she could endure. In the hours before dawn, the resolve hardened. No grand announcement, no dramatic confrontation, just a quiet, final line drawn in her heart. She would protect what remained her children, her marriage, the small space she still controlled. Contact with Harry ended here, now, forever. The decision felt like amputation, painful and necessary. She sat in the dark, arms wrapped around herself, already feeling the emptiness where family once lived. Two women, two separate heartbreaks, but one shared conclusion was about to bring them together in the most shocking way. In a secret 3 a.m. call that lasted 47 minutes, Anne and Catherine did what the palace feared most: they aligned. No more mediation, no more second chances. The book had forced their hands. What exact agreement did they reach about Harry and Meghan? What threats did they exchange to ensure the cut was permanent? Fresh leaks exposed the coded phrases they used and the devastating clause they added. Zero communication, zero public acknowledgement, zero future reconciliation. The two most loyal royals had just declared the Sussex chapter closed forever. The monarchy's silent civil war had officially begun. The line connected at exactly 3:02 a.m. Anne dialed first. Catherine answered on the second ring, voice low and raw from crying. Neither wasted breath on greetings. The silence that followed carried the weight of everything they had endured separately until that moment. Then Anne spoke the first coded phrase they had never needed before. "The bridge is burned." Catherine echoed it back without hesitation. "The bridge is burned." Those 4 words sealed the pact before any details were even discussed. They spoke in fragments, careful even on a supposedly secure line, aware that every word could one day leak. The conversation moved fast, urgent, the kind of urgency born when trust has already shattered and only survival remains. Shared grievances poured out like confession in the dark. Anne recounted the letter Harry had quoted, the way her concern had been turned into evidence of cruelty. Catherine described the private moment he had weaponized, the small act of kindness reframed as condescension. Both women recognized the pattern: vulnerability offered in good faith, then exposed for public judgment. The betrayal felt doubled because it came from the same source. They had each tried quietly, persistently to keep the family whole. Now they saw how those efforts had been used against them. The realization bonded them in a way no formal alliance ever could. Two women who had rarely shared more than polite nods suddenly found themselves speaking the same language of pain and resolve. They added the clause almost as an afterthought, yet it landed with brutal finality. Zero communication, Anne said. Zero public acknowledgement, Catherine replied. Zero future reconciliation. The words hung between them like an iron gate slamming shut. No loopholes. No exceptions for holidays, for children, for crises. The line was drawn so sharply it cut both ways. Severing Harry and Meghan from their lives meant severing a piece of themselves too. The emotional weight pressed down hard. Betraying blood for self-preservation felt like treason against everything they had been taught. Yet the alternative endless cycles of hurt, apology, accusation felt worse. They stayed on the line long after the decision was made, breathing in the shared silence, letting the enormity settle. When the call ended at 3:49 a.m., both women sat motionless in their separate rooms, the phone still warm in their hands. The palace staff would discover the shift within hours, first in the unusual quiet, then in the abrupt cancellation of routine messages, the redirection of correspondence. Aides exchanged stunned glances in corridors. Whispers spread like frost. Something irreversible had happened. The two most steadfast figures in the family had chosen exile over endurance. The decision rippled outward, unseen but unstoppable. Yet sealing the pact was only half the battle. The moment Harry learned the truth would ignite an even bigger explosion. Harry's phone rang at dawn California time. Catherine's number, then Anne's. Both calls went straight to the pact they had just made. He listened in stunned silence as the final words landed. All contact ends today. What desperate pleas did he make? What accusations flew back across the ocean? Insiders reveal the exact exchange, the moment Harry realized the book had cost him his aunt and sister-in-law forever, and the chilling final text he received that confirmed the severance. The prince who once bared his soul had just been locked out of it completely. The first ring jolted him awake. He grabbed the phone, saw Catherine's name, and answered before the second chime. Her voice came through cold, steady, stripped of every warmth he had once known. Harry, this is the last time we speak. All contact ends today. No calls, no messages, no exceptions, no preamble, no softening. Just the verdict delivered like a sentence. He tried to interrupt, words tumbling out in a rush. Catherine, wait, please, let me explain. The book wasn't meant to, but she cut him off with quiet finality. It was meant. You chose every word. We're done. The line went dead. He stared at the screen, breath caught, the silence louder than any shout. Anne's call followed seconds later. He answered, shaking. Her tone carried the same steel, but laced with something rawer, disappointment so deep it bordered on grief. You crossed a line that cannot be walked back, she said. The things you wrote about me, about Catherine, they were private. They were family. You turned them into weapons. There is no coming back from that. He pleaded then, voice cracking. Aunt Anne, I was hurting. I needed to tell the truth. I never wanted to hurt you. She let the words hang for a heartbeat before replying. You did. And now, we protect ourselves. Goodbye, Harry. Click. The room spun. He sank to the edge of the bed, head in hands, the weight of what he had lost crashing down all at once. Counter-accusations flew in the brief moments before each call ended. Catherine accused him of betrayal dressed as honesty, of dragging her personal struggles into public view for profit and sympathy. Anne charged him with rewriting history to cast himself as victim while erasing every quiet act of support she had ever given. Each word deepened the chasm, turning regret into resentment, pain into permanent distance. He tried to apologize, to explain the intent behind the pages, but the responses were merciless. Intent doesn't erase impact. You made your choice. The finality in their voices stripped away any illusion of repair. Meghan stood in the doorway, silent at first, then crossed to him when the second call ended. She wrapped her arms around his shoulders without a word, but he felt her own tension, the tremor in her hold. She had heard enough through the open door, the cold delivery, the slammed doors on the other side of the ocean. Her eyes filled, but she said nothing. There were no easy comforts left. Minutes later, his phone buzzed with one final text, group message from both numbers. Catherine's words first, "This is confirmation. All contact ends today." Anne's single line beneath it, "Do not attempt to reach us again." No signature, no farewell, just the stark declaration that sealed everything. He read it 3 times, hoping the words would change, knowing they would not. Regret surged up so violently he could barely breathe. "I should never have published it," he whispered into the quiet room. "I thought it would free me. It only locked everyone else away." The confession came too late. The door he had opened with ink had now slammed shut forever. While Harry reeled in California, the palace was already bracing for the public war that would follow. Within hours, the news leaked. Anne and Catherine had cut Harry off completely. Front pages screamed royal exile. Hashtags trended worldwide. What desperate damage control calls did Charles make? How did William react to his wife's decision? Leaked palace memos reveal the frantic attempts to suppress the story and the terrifying internal polls showing public support shifting dramatically. The monarchy was bleeding support faster than ever, all because of one book and one unbreakable pact. The family that once closed ranks now stood divided in full view of the planet. The leak originated from a single encrypted email sent at 7:14 a.m. London time, an anonymous palace source forwarding the group text screenshot to a trusted tabloid journalist. By 7:32, the headline was live. Anne and Catherine sever all ties with Harry royal family in crisis. Within minutes, the story ricocheted across every major outlet. Phones in every royal office rang off the hook. Social media ignited with hashtag royal exile trending globally in under an hour. Commentators dissected the screenshot line by line. Fans raged in one corner, critics cheered in another. The speed was merciless. No time for spin, no buffer. The fracture the family had tried to keep private now blazed across every screen on Earth. Charles reacted first. He placed call after call from his private line first to Anne, then Catherine, then back again. His voice cracked on each one. "We can still fix this," he pleaded. "Let me speak to him. Let me mediate." The responses were identical. Calm, final, unyielding. Anne told him the decision was made. Catherine reminded him the book had spoken for Harry. Charles hung up each time more defeated. The king reduced to begging for scraps of family unity that no longer existed. He paced his study, memos piling on his desk, each one more alarming than the last. The institution he had waited a lifetime to lead now teetered because of words on a page. William's conflict tore him apart in silence. He had known Catherine's pain, had held her while she cried over the book, had watched her resolve harden into something unbreakable. Yet Harry was still his brother, the brother he had once protected, laughed with, mourned with. Loyalty split him down the middle. When Catherine told him the pact was sealed, he nodded once, jaw tight, eyes distant. Inside the war raged, support his wife, his partner, the mother of his children, or reach for the brother who had just burned every bridge behind him. He chose silence. No public statement. No private outreach. The air stood frozen, while the family splintered around him, the weight of both sides crushing the air from his lungs. Internal polling arrived like a death knell. Numbers that had already been shaky plunged overnight. Trust among the under 30 demographic cratered. Approval ratings for the monarchy as a whole dipped to levels unseen in decades. Senior advisors stared at the charts in stunned quiet. One whispered the unthinkable, "If this continues, we lose a generation." The data showed sympathy surging toward Harry in some quarters, his pain reframed as justified rebellion, while others rallied behind Anne and Catherine as guardians of dignity. The split widened by the hour. No side could claim clear victory, only deepening division. The media frenzy fed on itself. Pundits filled airwaves with hot takes. "This is bigger than Diana," one declared. "This is the end of the fairy tale." Experts debated whether the cut could ever be reversed. Tabloids ran side-by-side photos of happier times next to the damning text. Every angle dissected, every word analysed. The palace's suppression strategy, urgent memos to editors, legal threats, quiet pleas failed spectacularly. The story was too big, too raw. Attempts to contain it only poured fuel on the fire. The long-term consequences loomed like storm clouds on the horizon. Trust once broken would take years to rebuild if it ever could. Public goodwill, the monarchy's true currency, was draining away drop by drop. The family that had survived wars, abdications, scandals now faced something new. Irrelevance, born of its own hands. But the real damage wasn't in the headlines, it was still unfolding in the quiet rooms where the family would never speak again. Behind the headlines, 3 lives lay in ruins. Anne stares at old photos with tears she refuses to shed. Catherine holds her children tighter, wondering what story they'll one day hear. Harry sits in California replaying the final call on loop. What private regrets keep each of them awake? What small gestures of love are now lost forever? Insiders describe the quiet morning inside the palaces and the one final letter that arrived too late. The book that promised truth had delivered only permanent separation. The silence pressed heaviest on Anne. In the quiet of Gatcombe Park, she sat at her desk long after midnight, thumbing through albums she had not opened in years. There was Harry as a boy, gap-toothed and grinning, the nephew she had shielded from the worst of the spotlight with steady, unsentimental love. She had taught him to ride, listened to his fears when no one else would, slipped him quiet advice that carried the weight of decades of duty. Now those memories twisted like knives. The woman who had protected the crown at every personal cost found herself mourning the boy she could no longer reach. Tears gathered, but never fell. She would not allow them. Yet the ache remained, a hollow space where family once lived, growing wider with every passing hour. Catherine withdrew into herself with a grace that hid the fracture lines. Public appearances continued on schedule, smiles flawless as ever, but insiders saw the truth in the smaller details. Fewer spontaneous visits to schools, shorter engagements, longer stretches behind palace walls. She held her children closer at bedtime, reading stories with a tenderness edged in fear. What would they one day hear about their uncle? What version of this rift would reach their ears? The questions haunted her even as she tucked them in, her voice steady while her heart quietly broke. The future queen, who had once embodied effortless warmth, now guarded every emotion like fragile glass, terrified that one more crack would shatter everything she had rebuilt. Across the ocean, Harry sat alone in the dark, phone in hand, replaying the final calls until the words blurred. He heard Catherine's cold finality, Anne's disappointed steel, and each repetition carved deeper into his chest. Unanswered questions circled like vultures. Had the truth been worth this? Could he have softened a single line and kept them? The torment never eased. He stared at old messages, deleted photos, the empty space where replies once arrived. The prince who had bared his soul in print now carried a different kind of silence, heavier, more permanent. Regret became his constant companion, whispering that the book meant to free him had instead locked every door behind him. Small gestures of love vanished forever. No more Christmas cards from Anne, no more quiet texts from Catherine checking on the children. Birthdays passed unmarked. Milestones slipped by without acknowledgement. The everyday threads that once stitched the family together had been cut clean. Then, 3 days after the pact, a single letter arrived at Harry's door. No return address. Inside, a short note in Anne's hand: "We loved you once. Remember that. Nothing more." He read it until the paper grew soft, then folded it away like a wound that would never heal. The long-term toll settled over all three like a shroud. Nights stretched sleepless. Days felt hollow. The psychological weight pressed down without mercy, eroding the very foundations of who they had been. Anne's resolve hardened into something brittle. Catherine's warmth dimmed behind careful distance. Harry's fire turned inward, burning without outlet. Each carried the same quiet grief, the same unanswered longing, the same terrifying knowledge that some breaks cannot be mended. The silence is now permanent, but the final question remains: who will break first? And at what devastating cost? One book. One pact. One irreversible cut. Anne and Catherine have drawn the line that may never be crossed again. Will Harry ever attempt reconciliation? Will the monarchy survive without the Sussex name? Insiders warn the next 90 days will decide if this fracture heals in secret or hardens into permanent exile. The human cost is already staggering: estranged blood, broken trust, and a crown fighting to stay relevant. Whatever comes next will either redefine the royal family or watch it fracture beyond recognition. The story isn't over. It has only just begun. The coming months loom like a storm no one can outrun. Every day carries the risk of a new leak, a stray comment, a photograph that reignites the wound. Harry might reach out through back channels, perhaps a handwritten letter slipped to a trusted mutual friend, perhaps a quiet intermediary sent with apologies too late to matter, or he might stay silent, letting pride and pain keep him on the far side of the ocean while the silence grows thicker. Anne and Catherine could waver in private moments of doubt, wondering if total severance was too absolute, yet the memory of those pages would steal them again. Reconciliation feels possible only in the abstract. In reality, every path forward is mined with resentment too deep to cross without bleeding. Camilla and Charles fight to hold the line with desperate determination. Charles, hollow-eyed from sleepless nights, rehearses statements that sound like pleas even to his own ears. He wants unity above all, yet every attempt to broker peace collides with the unbreakable wall Anne and Catherine have built. Camilla moves through corridors with calculated poise, issuing quiet orders to staff, reminding everyone that the institution must endure even if the family does not. Her influence feels fragile now, every public appearance weighed against the risk of seeming callous, every private word scrutinized for cracks. They both know the crown's survival depends on projecting strength, but the strain shows in the small hours when the palace falls quiet and doubt creeps in. Public perception shifts like sand underfoot. The monarchy that once commanded automatic reverence now faces open questions about relevance, fairness, humanity. Younger generations scroll past headlines with indifference or outright disdain. Older loyalists cling tighter, yet even they whisper of disappointment. Polls fluctuate wildly. 1 week sympathy tilts toward Harry's pain, the next toward Anne and Catherine's dignity. The Sussex name, once a lightning rod, now haunts the institution like a ghost. Without it, the family appears smaller, more insular, less dynamic. Every future engagement carries the shadow of absence: no witty exchanges, no fresh energy, only the echo of what was lost. The crown fights not just for survival, but for meaning in a world that no longer waits in awe. This becomes the ultimate test: loyalty versus truth. Loyalty demands silence, unity at any price, the preservation of the facade above all. Truth demands acknowledgement, apology, the courage to face what was broken. The family stands at that crossroads, torn between the old way that kept them standing and the new way that might let them breathe. One side offers continuity laced with pain, the other promises honesty laced with risk. Neither path feels safe, neither feels complete. A single move could still change everything. A carefully worded public statement. A private meeting no one expects, a gesture from one side that forces the other to respond. The possibility flickers like a distant light, hopeful, dangerous, fragile. The monarchy enters a new era stripped of one of its most polarizing figures, forced to redefine itself without the contrast Harry once provided. Success would mean quiet evolution. Failure would mean slow fade into irrelevance. The human cost lingers in every decision. Love turned to loss, trust turned to ash, blood turned to strangers. The final chapter is still being written, and the person who holds the pen may be the one no one expects. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.